Hi everybody and welcome back, and I continue my video journey, my video storytelling, and I would like to tell you why I'm standing in front of you now and what is the reason exactly why I started this video channel. The exact reason why I started it, to give you a hope, to give you a little encouragement that as a non-native speaker, speaking English is absolutely a real thing. It is just a question of practice and not giving up the hope, and that's why I am here in front of you to prove that as a non-native speaker, it is absolutely the real thing. And how I started, I told you a lot of things in some of my previous videos, but now in this video, I tell you the exact reason why I'm standing here in front of you. And I told you my goal, told you my reasons why I'm here, but why I ended up being here, it is a crazy story. And I tell you this crazy story now, and watch carefully because I think it is a very constructive to all of you. So as I mentioned earlier, I worked 5 years on a cruise ship. I pretty much been around the world, and I met a lot of cultures, a lot of accents, a lot of Native American speakers, British speakers, but American accent was much closer to me because I was surrounded mainly US citizens as a passengers, and I spent most of my time with them. They were very talkative, and they were curious, and they polished me. They taught me in dialect. Of course, they were not teachers, but it means that if you want to learn English, it doesn't mean that you have to go always English teachers and attend classes. It's about your personality. It has to be deep inside in yourself, the want that you want to acquire the language, and you have to be curious, curious, curious. And if in your mind there is a word that you don't know in English, just in your native language, you have to look it up on the dictionary and make a note. Is better if you write a sentence and you learn it with a sentence. But I will talk about the English learning techniques later on. I tell you now why I am here. So I finished these 5 years working on a ship, and after I came home to my home country, to Hungary, and I continued working as a waiter as well in a restaurant here in the Castle district in Budapest for 1 year. Why just one year? Because the last month of the year, we didn't get our salary. And nobody in the working staff was brave enough to question the owner of the restaurant why we did not get the salary. The salary delayed about 20 or 23 days. And I went to the leader, I went to the boss, and I asked, why we don't get our salary? And he paused for a second. He was really shocked that I was so brave guy to question the leader, because nobody else in the staff was brave enough to approach the guy, because he was really, really conceited man. He was a really egoistic man. He was a really arrogant man. So everybody was afraid of him. And I was the bravest guy, and I went there, and what in the next couple of minutes happened turned my life literally upside down. He told me to go to the back office with the chef and the head waiter and me, because I was just an average waiter, so I was absolutely nobody there. And we went there together, and in front of the chef and the head waiter told me off badly. He was screaming at me. He was talking about me just like, I don't want to curse here, but like nobody. He treated me in a very inferior way. He humiliated me, and I was not given salary. So can you imagine the situation that you work, your salary delays, you ask for a salary, and you are told off. You are told off after that. It's crazy. I think it's crazy. And after that horrible experience, he pointed at me his last question. His last question was, "Do you have any questions?" I answered, "Of course." And he was amazed. And I answered, "Will you pay? Will you pay or not?" And after that, he continued his screaming, his humiliation, and I stood up, and like in the theater, I took off my apron and left the restaurant. This is 5 p.m. It was around 5 p.m. I had newborn baby. My daughter was a couple of months old then. My my wife was on the maternity leave, so we had just one salary. We lived on just one salary, and I resigned. And I went home 5 p.m. and my wife asked me, "How come that you're home that early? You're supposed to be working." And I said, "A terrible thing happened. I asked for my salary, and instead of getting my salary, I got shit in my face. I was told off. I was humiliated. And at that very moment, I decided not become a waiter anymore, not go on being a waiter. And it transformed my life for good up to this moment. It was exactly 20 years ago. And my wife asked me, "What will you do? This is your profession. What will we do? We don't have money." But I have to admit that that time, after working 5 years on a cruise ship, I have some savings. With today's standards, it was 12,000 US dollars in the bank. So I had some savings then. That's why I was so brave to confront with or collide with my boss. But as you think about 12,000 US dollars, it's not a big money. It's just a second-hand car. But it was enough for me to try myself whether I can be somebody else. And the only thing that I was able to do is speaking English. I spoke back then, speaking English continuously. My grammar suffered a lot. Even today, I make some mistakes. So that's why I asked you before in the previous videos that if you if you point out some mistake during I speak English, just let me know in the format of comment or any kind of format, because I want to polish myself until the end of my life in terms of English speaking. So I decided that very moment, and I will teach English without any expertise of teaching, without any qualification of teaching, and without any experience of teaching. So the next day, I went to an office because it was before the widespread internet. The internet was not in our pocket. It was in 2005. And I spread newspaper advertisements around the city about my English teaching service. And I was waiting for the phone calls. And I received some phone calls, and I started something. But you can ask me how, where? Did I rent an office, or where did I go to teach? Did you teach it at home or where? In a library. There is a library in the heart of Budapest, Calvin Square. It is one of the biggest square in Budapest, very important crossing there. And there is a huge, beautiful old building, and it hosts a library. Szabó Ervin Library. You can look it up on the internet. It's a beautiful old building. And I started to teach English in the cafe. It is a cafe there. And I sat down at the table. I ordered a tea for myself in the beginning of the day, 10 a.m. And I sat there until the closing hour, until 8 p.m. I didn't really leave the table because just for emergency, for example, going to the toilet, for example, but only when I had somebody with me to keep the table, because this cafe place is very, very busy. So I had to keep the table, the chair, in order to teach. And I do really remember my first students. Actually, my first English lesson that I gave immediately to a couple. And the couple came, they sat down, and I introduced myself as a teacher. I was not, of course. And I had my first English lesson. They never come back. Maybe they realized, oh my God, he's not a teacher. He's just behaving as a teacher. He tried to be a teacher, but it has nothing to do with this profession. And after that, I didn't give up. I kept advertising my service. And day by day, I get phone calls. Not many, few phone calls. And after, I don't know, 6 months, I collected about 5, 6 students. And after the number went on, because the news spread that he's a guy, he's very friendly. I always ask my students to ask what they want to know. And if they ask me something that I did not know, I didn't know the answer, I said, oh, we will learn it later, but I had no clue about that. So I had to learn all the time. I had to continue to educate myself in order to prepare them for the language exam, for example, because most of them wanted to pass the language exam. And I had just an intermediate language exam. And of course, it's very difficult to teach something that it is not your daily practice. So I educated myself. During these years, I have been doing this teaching experience for 20 years, still without any qualification to be a teacher. But I have been having students ever since, so it's no problem. And now I took a huge step, one level up, being on the internet with you on my new YouTube channel and share my teaching experience. How I thought it maybe I can help you a little bit how to speak English with better accent. And of course, I polish my accent as well. And in the next videos, I will share you, I hope, very useful pieces of information about how to form words, how to sound like more American, and on the way, I will sound like more American as well. So we will see together, and I hope you join on my journey on my YouTube channel, and it will be very exciting. I promise. Bye bye.